You are watching Beyond the News. Like, comment, and subscribe.
News, May 12, 2025. Jamaica's Economic Reality Check, a Fragile Balancing Act by Kevin Blair. Beyond the News senior journalist, Jamaica's economy in 2025 is a tale of two Jamaicas, one that touts fiscal stability and one that still struggles with the weight of inequality, weak productivity, and external shocks. Behind the curtain of press releases and padded growth forecasts lies a country still fighting to find its economic footing. The numbers don't lie. After growing by 2% in 2023, Jamaica's economy shrank by 0.9% in 2024, a sobering reversal. Every major pillar of production took a hit. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing, once thought to be a steady fallback, fell by 3.4%. Manufacturing and mining shrank by 1.3% and 0.4% respectively. Construction dipped by 2.8%, a red flag for future infrastructure ambitions. The services sector wasn't spared either. Retail, transport, and communication all declined. Even tourism, often the golden goose of Jamaica's economy, contracted by 6.1% in the third quarter of 2024. Hurricane Beryl's destructive path exposed just how fragile the island's economy really is. Fiscal discipline or fiscal straitjacket. To its credit, Jamaica has dramatically cut its public debt from over 140% of GDP in the 2010s to 74.2% by 2023-24. The country is often paraded as a poster child of fiscal reform by international financial institutions. But this discipline has come at a cost. Debt repayments still swallow a large chunk of the national budget, leaving crumbs for education, healthcare, and social services. Investment in critical sectors remains weak. Jamaica's budget is balanced on paper, but for the average citizen, little feels balanced. Inflation eases, but caution remains. Inflation eased to 4.7% in January 2025, down from 7.4% the previous year. The Bank of Jamaica has held the policy rate at 6.00% to maintain stability in the exchange rate and keep inflation within the target range. Still, for everyday Jamaicans, food prices remain high, and wages have not caught up. Structural weaknesses. Exposed Jamaica is still heavily dependent on tourism and remittances. It's a dangerous position for any economy. One hurricane, one global downturn, or one pandemic, and the entire system stutters. Productivity levels remain low, energy costs are high, and crime continues to undermine investor confidence and local business survival. Despite talks of diversification, real change has been slow. The agricultural sector remains outdated. The manufacturing base is thin. And while digital startups and green energy projects make the headlines, they haven't yet scaled to shift the economic foundation. Hope versus reality. The government forecasts 1% to 3% growth in the 2025/26 fiscal year. Sectors like agriculture, electricity, and tourism are expected to drive this mild recovery. But with so many vulnerabilities, from climate shocks to international market exposure, it's hard to bank on optimism alone. The verdict, let's not sugarcoat it. Jamaica's economy is in a tight spot. Yes, the government has been fiscally responsible. Yes, inflation is cooling. But beneath the numbers lies a deeper crisis, one of underdevelopment, over-reliance on a few industries, and a population that still feels the economic squeeze daily. Jamaica needs more than balanced books. It needs bold policies, real investment in people, and a commitment to building a truly resilient and inclusive economy. Until then, the nation walks a thin line between survival and stagnation.
What my learn to do without enough time, my stomach a grumble, man, I for hold it out. My push through the storm, now tougher than steel. The struggle build me up, so the real don't feel, yeah. Me no need for your plenty. All the pressure turn me into something heavy. Watch me rise, watch me grow, watch me glow. From the gutter to the top, man, I never move slow.
You might see a headline about Jamaica's economy maybe for 2025 and think, okay, got it. But when you dig a little deeper, like we always try to do.
It gets more complicated.
Exactly. So we're looking at this piece from Beyond the News. It's dated May 12th, 2025. And our plan today is really to, explore what's actually happening economically in Jamaica, go beyond just those surface reports.
Mm-hmm.
Because what really jumps out from this article is this gap between some real financial progress the government's made and the pressures still facing a lot of ordinary Jamaicans.
That's right. The source we have, it definitely flags some significant achievements, especially, like you said, how they've managed the national
Yeah.
debt. But these wins, they're happening alongside some, well, persistent economic issues and vulnerabilities that are still really impacting daily life there.
Okay.
So it's this contrast,
Hmm.
stability on one hand, strain on the other. That's what we need to get a handle on.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that then. So, one of the first big things the article hits on is Jamaica bringing down its public debt. And we're talking a serious drop here
Oh, yeah.
from over 140% of GDP. That's the total value of everything the country produces in a year, down to about 74.2% by the 2023-24 fiscal year. That sounds huge.
It is huge. A really remarkable achievement, you have to say. That kind of reduction shows a real commitment, making some tough calls financially.
The piece even suggests Jamaica is seen as a bit of a model, maybe, for other countries.
It does. It's
Ah,
positioned them quite well, actually, compared to some neighbors facing similar debt issues.
yeah.
But, and this is the crucial point that Beyond the News piece makes,
Mm.
this discipline, it has consequences.
Okay. Like what?
Well, think about it. If a big slice of your budget is dedicated just to paying off old debt,
Right.
then naturally there's less money left over for the really important stuff,
Hmm.
schools, hospitals, social support systems.
So the government's books might look healthier, more stable on paper, but the person on the street might not be feeling that benefit. Maybe their local clinic hasn't improved, or school funding is still tight.
Precisely, there can be a real disconnect.
Yeah.
And building on that, the article then pivots to look at, well, how the economy actually performed in 2024.
Yeah, I saw that. After like 2% growth in 2023, which isn't massive, but it's growth.
Uh,
The source says things went backwards in 2024, a 0.9% contraction.
yes. And what's really striking is how broad that downturn was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one area. Agriculture, forestry, fishing, fundamental sectors, they dropped by 3.4%.
Wow.
Manufacturing shrank too, 1.3%.
Yeah.
Even mining dipped a bit. And maybe more worryingly for the future.
What the girl them used to love, farmer man, educated man. No badness them run down. We are changing order. Let go the badness thing here me now. The girl them fill up farmer man, educated man, not a gun man. Them used to want the real hard worker. Money in a hand, yeah, the plan proper. Now a bad man, them a run down, but me tell them to stop run around. If farmer man have the true crown, me say for turn the thing round.
Future, construction was down 2.8%.
That often signals slowdowns ahead, doesn't it? Less building happening.
It can, yeah. It often reflects confidence and investment levels.
And it wasn't just the goods producing industries, was it? The article mentioned services took a hit too, like retail, transport.
That's right. The service sector, which is a huge part of the modern economy, saw declines. But the number that really leaps out,
Let me guess, tourism.
you got it. A 6.1% drop in tourism, specifically in the third quarter of 2024. And tourism is, it's vital for Jamaica.
And the article links that directly to Hurricane Beryl. Right?
It does, which is perfectly illustrates the vulnerability we're talking about, how exposed the economy is to these external shocks, especially natural disasters. One big storm.
And it ripples through everything. Did the piece talk about making tourism more resilient? Or just state the problem?
It mostly highlights the problem, underscoring that dependence. It doesn't delve deep into specific resilience strategies in this section, but it definitely sets the stage for thinking about that reliance.
Okay. Now, it wasn't all bad news. The article did mention inflation easing up.
Yeah, that was a positive point, down to 4.7% in January 2025 from 7.4% the year before. So a noticeable improvement.
And the Bank of Jamaica is keeping its main interest rate steady at 6%, trying to keep the currency stable and inflation in check. So that seems like good management.
It does. It shows the central bank is actively working on stability. But again, there's that crucial context the article provides.
Which is?
Even though the overall inflation number is down, food prices are still really high for a lot of people.
So the headline figure looks better, but the grocery bill still hurts.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And importantly, wages just haven't kept up with living costs generally.
Hmm.
So even with lower inflation, that financial pressure on households might still feel pretty intense.
Right. That makes sense. And this leads into what the article calls out as sort of the fundamental weaknesses, doesn't it?
Exactly. This heavy reliance on just a couple of things: tourism, obviously, and remittances, the money sent home by Jamaicans working overseas.
Which makes the whole economy vulnerable. If there's
Uh,
a global downturn, tourism suffers. If migration policies change somewhere else, remittances could drop.
Precisely. It creates this built in instability. And the source points to other underlying problems too. Things like um, relatively low productivity levels across the board.
Okay.
High energy costs are another big one. And the ongoing challenge of crime, which, inevitably impacts business confidence, both local and international investment.
So these are those deeper sort of structural issues people talk about: infrastructure, maybe regulations, things holding back growth.
That's a good way to put it. And the article suggests that even though there's been talk for years about diversifying the economy, moving beyond just tourism and boxy alumina,
Real change has been slow.
yeah, pretty slow. It mentions the agricultural sector needing modernization, the manufacturing base being quite thin.
There are some newer things mentioned, though, right? Like digital startups, green energy.
There are. And those are definitely encouraging signs. Absolutely. But the article's point seems to be that they just haven't reached a scale yet where they fundamentally shift the economic balance. They're not yet big enough to really reduce that core reliance on tourism and remittances.
So it's potential, but not transformation, at least not yet.
Not yet. That kind of deep diversification, building resilience, that takes sustained effort, serious investment, and frankly, time.
Okay, so looking forward, the government is projecting some growth for the next fiscal year, 2025, 26,
Yes, they are. The forecast mentioned is between 1% and 3%.
which isn't exactly booming, but it's better than contracting.
Right. And they expect sectors like agriculture, electricity, and maybe optimistically tourism again to drive that recovery.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yes. Given everything we've discussed, the article rightly flags those persistent risks. Climate shocks are a constant threat, international market ups and downs.
So even that modest growth forecast feels a bit uncertain.
I think cautious optimism is probably the best way to frame it. There's hope for recovery, but the vulnerabilities haven't gone away. There's a definite sense of uncertainty hanging over it.
Which brings us back to what the article calls that underlying crisis. It's this idea that, okay, maybe the government's finances look better, the debt is down.
Right. Fiscal responsibility points.
But there's this deeper issue still there under development, relying too much on too few things. And for you listening, it's stark that many Jamaicans are still feeling real economic hardship despite those top line fiscal improvements.
And that really is the core argument here, isn't it? Fiscal management, yes, it's vital, absolutely crucial. But it's not the only measure of economic health or, more importantly, people's well being.
Hmm.
The piece makes a strong case for needing uh, bold policies, as it puts it, real investment in people, in education, in skills, and a genuine commitment to building an economy that's not just balanced, but also inclusive and crucially resilient.
More than just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. It has to translate into better lives, more security for everyone.
The article wraps up with a pretty stark picture, calling Jamaica's position precarious, like it's walking a tightrope between just surviving and actually stagnating.
Yeah, it's a sobering assessment.
It really makes you think about what true economic strength, true resilience actually means for a nation like Jamaica, so tied to external factors, and what kind of maybe unconventional thinking or innovative solutions might be needed to build a future that's genuinely more robust and fair for everyone there. Definitely something to ponder.
Me not have much, but me learn to do without. Enough time my stomach a grumble, man, not for hold it out. Me push through the storm, now tougher than steel. The struggle build me up, so the real don't feel, yeah, yeah. Me no need for have plenty. All the pressure turn me into something heavy. Watch me rise, watch me grow, watch me glow. From the gutter to the top, man, I never move slow.